Look, I don't think Paul George is a bad guy. I just think he's incredibly delusional. I think he's blind, self-unaware. And unfortunately, I think that that's also a mirror of a lot of modern athletes and a lot of the NBA, unfortunately. And I think that that's a real problem. Let's talk about it coming up here now. Before we do that, though, reminder, subscribe to the channel. Click on this button below me, okay? That way you'll be notified when we do DA deep dives like this one. Make sure you are locked in by clicking on the button below me. Subscribe to the channel. When Paul George says on his podcast, I'm going to take some time away to focus on basketball, okay? Got to finish out this season strong. Want to make sure that I'm focused and not distracted for the basketball season. It is comical. It is truly comical, okay? Because you've got a guy in Paul George paid more than $200 million to do basketball. That's the job. And he has a podcast, well-trafficked, because he plays basketball. It's not the other way around, okay? He didn't get his basketball job because he's a great podcast host. So to announce on the podcast, it's time for me to step aside. I'm going to put this to the back burner as I focus on basketball. That's inherent in your priority scale of how you get paid, of who you are, of what you do. So it's completely absurd and ridiculous to have to announce on one broadcast platform. I'm going to have to take a pause here to focus on the other thing I do, the basketball. Unbelievably self-unaware. But also, it does give us this incredible window into the brain of the modern athlete who looks at both the sports and the brand as equal. He looks at these two things as two things he has to do. And that's pretty mind-blowing. We don't have to go back very far. Imagine going back to the early 2000s and telling Allen Iverson or Kevin Garnett or Kobe Bryant that their media responsibilities are equal to their basketball responsibilities. They would laugh. And that's, yes, one generation ago, but it's not that long ago. The idea that before that, Michael would be distracted because of local television spots he might do in Chicago to tell Larry Bird or Magic Johnson that their basketball might slip because they're doing too much media is laughable, absolutely laughable. But in today's world, these athletes look at the branding of themselves with all their business partnerships, their podcasts, their social media presence, their all-star game meetings, all-star weekend meetings. They look at all of that as an equal part of the job, and that being on social or being heard is just as vital to their existence or just as inherent to their existence as the basketball, as the sports. And that's where it is just mind-numbing here, because they always say, keep the main thing, 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 the main thing. And yet here is a player letting us into his brain and showing us, forget keeping the main thing, the main thing. It took him until late February of a lost basketball season to realize I should probably focus just on basketball here. Maybe not even because he thinks it's a distraction, but because it's a bad look. The season is lost, Paul. It's been lost for a long time, Paul. The season has been going sideways on you for 4 months now, Paul. And today's the day you pull up the nose on that airplane and say, you know what? We're heading down fast. I should probably reassess. Now? The season is gone. The season is lost. The season is over. Now is when you want to focus on the basketball, which always should have been the focus. You have a generation of athletes, just like a generation of young people that are not athletes, that have grown up with social media as another appendage. It's like having a right hand. It's like having a left ear. That having your life displayed on social media and the likes and the retweets, the reposts and the friends and the followers, all of that is just part of you. It is obviously so inherently part of you that you cannot imagine a world without it. And so that when you distance yourself from anything like that, such as hosting a podcast, it is so significant to walk away from it. You have to announce you're walking away from it instead of just walking away. It is a terrifying reality, truly a terrifying reality. The idea that a season could be so far gone, such as the Philadelphia 76ers, and then that realization, well, you know what? Maybe I should walk away from my media responsibilities to focus on the basketball. When A, it's already far gone, and B, use the platform to announce that you're focusing on the basketball. It doesn't need to be said. It should just always be that way. And you look at LeBron. LeBron goes dark famously during the playoffs. But LeBron every year has carried a team through the regular season to some type of high seeding with his NBA playoff standings. Here is a guy in the middle of a completely lost campaign, a dysfunctional, awful, horrible Sixers campaign, who has basically whistled past the graveyard for 4 or 5 months. Nothing to see here. Just going to keep doing the pod until finally we hit late February and there's a month and a half left in the season. And it's, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll just focus on basketball now. Time to just kind of grind. Now is the time to grind. It is such a lost generation and lost opportunity for everybody who believe that social media, podcasting, etc., is equal to whatever their truest purpose is in life. And that's all of us. We're all consumed by this. But specifically for an athlete who is paid for one thing and one thing only, to be great at that sport. There's very few athletes that are being paid a sum of money because they're famous. There's mostly athletes being paid because they need to be great at the sport they're being paid for. It is scary, very scary, that those athletes, such as Paul George, might not be able to differentiate between the two. The season's over! Now? How bold of you, Paul George. That's going to do it for us here on the DA Deep Dive. Remember to subscribe to the channel by clicking on this button right next to me. That way you'll get notified when we do things like this, videos like this. Be one with the channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm DA. We'll see you next time.